All right, today we are diving deep into front-end SEO, and we're going to look at it from a slightly different angle. How to prepare your website for a very particular type of visitor.
So let me just ask you this straight up. When you build a website, who do you think is your single most important visitor? You're probably thinking, a customer, a reader, a user. And you're right, of course, they're incredibly important. But there's actually another visitor you need to impress first.
And that visitor? It's an invisible robot. Specifically, we're talking about Google's web crawling bot, which you'll often hear called Googlebot. Now, this little robot doesn't have eyes, it doesn't have feelings, but its job is everything. It visits your site, tries to understand what it's all about, and then decides where you should rank in the biggest library in the world, Google search results.
So let's try a little thought experiment. Let's think of your website as your house, and Googlebot as a kind of robotic librarian that's coming over for a visit. Front-end SEO, then, is really just the art of tidying up your house, making sure this robot librarian can easily figure out what's where, finds it appealing, and thinks it's worthy of a top spot on its shelves. So for today, we're not just developers, we're tour guides for robots.
Okay, so if we're going to be a good tour guide for this robotic guest, we first need to get a handle on who the main players are in this whole story.
Here's our cast. First, you've got the website. That's our digital house. Then comes Googlebot, our robotic librarian, popping in to visit and index everything it finds inside. And finally, there's you, the front-end developer. You are the tour guide for bots, and your job is to make sure that librarian's visit goes off without a hitch.
Now, the very first job for any good tour guide is making sure your guest can actually understand what you're saying. And for our robotic librarian, that means speaking its language. And that language is clear, well-structured HTML.
This is where the power of semantic HTML really clicks, especially with our house analogy. You see, for a long time, we built websites using tons of generic div tags. That's kind of like putting a sign on every single door in your house that just says room. Can you imagine how confused our robotic librarian would be? It has no idea what's a kitchen versus what's a bedroom. Semantic HTML totally fixes this. It gives us tags that act like proper, clear labels for every room.
So the solution is using these specific, meaningful tags. A header tag, that's your main entrance. The nav tag is the hallway system, telling the bot how to get around. And main clearly defines the primary living area, the most important part of the house. These labels help Googlebot instantly get the layout and, more importantly, the hierarchy of your content. Honestly, it's the first and most fundamental step to being a great robot tour guide.
So, our librarian can now find its way around the house. That's great. But what about the signpost out front? We need a really clear entrance plaque that tells both the bot and any human visitors what they can expect to find inside. These signposts are what we call meta tags. Just think of them as that digital entrance plaque hidden away in your site's code. They do two things. One, they give a quick summary to search engines, and two, and this is a big one, they create the little snippet that people see in Google search results, which can either persuade them to click or to just scroll on by.
And two of these tags are absolutely essential. The title tag is the official name of your page. It's that big, blue, clickable headline you see in a Google search, and it's probably the single most important on-page SEO factor. Right underneath that, you've got the meta name description. This is your sales pitch. It's your one shot to write an engaging summary that tells a user, hey, you should visit my house, not all those other ones.
But our robotic librarian? It's a pretty discerning guest. It doesn't just read the signs and check the room labels. It also really cares about the quality of the visit itself. Was it a good experience? Was it fast? Or was it just kind of annoying?
So Google measures this guest experience using three key metrics that it calls the core web vitals. The first one is largest contentful paint, or LCP for short, and this all about loading speed. The easiest way to think about it is this. How long does it take for the main attraction? That huge, impressive painting or that giant TV in the room to fully appear for your visitor.
And that speed is absolutely critical. Google's target for what it considers a good experience is under 2.5 seconds. Anything longer than that, and your guest, whether they're a human or a robot, starts getting pretty impatient. This sends a signal that your page might be low quality, and that can directly hit your ranking.
So getting this number down is priority number 1 for a good guest experience.
Next up, we have First Input Delay, or FID. This one measures how quickly your site responds when someone tries to interact with it. So think about it like this. When your visitor presses the doorbell, how long does it take for something to actually happen? A long delay? Well, that's just a bad look. When it comes to how responsive your site is, the goal is basically instant feedback. A good score here is under 100 milliseconds. I know, that sounds ridiculously fast, but that's the threshold where an interaction feels totally seamless and fluid. Any delay here just feels like a sticky doorbell. It's a really clear sign that the house isn't being well maintained.
And finally, there's Cumulative Layout Shift, or CLS. Now this one tackles what might be the single most annoying user experience issue of all time. We've all been there. Imagine your visitor tries to sit down on a chair, but just as they're about to, the furniture all suddenly shifts and the chair moves. That's what happens online when a late-loading ad or an image shoves all the content around, causing you to click on the wrong thing. It's infuriating.
So with these layout shifts, the goal is pretty simple: stability. Your target score should be as close to 0 as humanly possible, meaning nothing moves around unexpectedly after it first appears. A stable, predictable layout isn't just less annoying, it signals to search engines that your site is professional and trustworthy, just like a house built on a solid foundation. So, let's just lock these 3 vitals in our minds. LCP for loading speed, under 2.5 seconds. FID for interactivity, under 100 milliseconds. And CLS for visual stability, aim for 0. I'm telling you, mastering these 3 numbers is absolutely key to impressing both your robotic and your human guests.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, but you're probably wondering, how do you actually measure all this stuff? How do you get an official report card for your house? Well, luckily for us, Google gives us a totally free inspection tool for exactly this purpose.
It's called Lighthouse, and it's already built right into the Chrome browser you're probably using right now. Running a report couldn't be simpler. You just open your developer tools, navigate over to the Lighthouse tab, check the boxes for performance and SEO, and, this is really important, make sure you simulate a mobile environment. That's because Google primarily indexes the web from a mobile point of view now. Then you just hit Analyze.
And in just a few seconds, bam, you get a full official inspection report. It gives you precise scores for your core web vitals. It does some basic SEO checks, like making sure your entrance plaque, your title and meta description tags are actually there. But honestly, the best part is the opportunities section. It doesn't just grade you. It gives you a literal to-do list with specific, actionable advice on exactly how to improve your scores. It's a game changer.
So by labeling your rooms with Semantic HTML, putting up a clear entrance plaque with meta tags, and ensuring a fantastic guest experience with your core web vitals, you become the perfect tour guide. You even have Lighthouse, the official inspection tool, to check your work. So the only question that's left is your house ready for its robotic guest? Thanks for tuning in.